I'm hoping that I don't have to hit start stream.
It says we're live.
It does say we're live. Oh, I think we figured that out.
I think we did.
Oh boy.
But now we got problems with this.
Hold on.
We've been on since 9:51.
No, this one is...
That's not good. If we have been.
No, we haven't. We're not streaming. Alright. I know what to do.
You know what to do. We're not streaming there either.
Yeah, we are.
Oh.
34 seconds. Hold on, YouTube crew. There's 350 guys on this submarine. If you don't fix this, we're going down.
So do I start chanting something now?
No, you just have to count down, or you would just out of nowhere go, bam, we're all dead.
All right, I'll count down because I would rather not die today. So
Hold on.
10.
Oh boy.
9.
You know our internet's not fast enough for that.
8. 7. 6. 5. 4.
I hope it's still in the cut and paste.
3.
It's not.
2.5.
Waiting for the video to go live.
1.
Oh, we're dead.
I think we should be live.
You think it went?
I got a feeling. Oh, you know what? Why don't you go back to vMix
That's where I was.
and hit the toggle, the toggle thing. Yeah.
For 1.
Go to 1 for Facebook and see what's up. Or go to 2. 2 must be Facebook then. There we go. See if that stream key is the same.
Stop 2?
Well, I don't know why it would need stopped.
Start 2.
Try it.
Why would the stream key have changed?
It shouldn't have, but
Let me make sure. I don't think we goofed up this. Here, let's... Warning is lower than a recommended bit rate. Let's, oh, crud. We have really gone to a new level here.
one and a half.
Yeah, see, this is on the day this happens. Alright, where's the stream key at? This thing?
Yeah.
Copy.
You need the URL too, so you have to put the URL and the stream
Oh
key.
my goodness.
So you have to put both of them in there. There, you're back. Okay.
Okay.
Can you copy 2 different things, or you can only copy one thing at a time?
You only copy one thing at a time.
I think they need to figure out a way to have a memory.
It's the same thing.
No, they need to have a memory in your copy, so you can copy 3 things on one page and then go to the next page and then paste number 1, paste number 2, paste number 3. Don't you think that'd be a great...
Oh, they do in, Android has that.
Oh, they do?
Mm-hmm.
I think Windows and Apple should come up with that.
There's a task manager. I'm sure that it's possible. This is all still here. This is all the same stuff.
Okay. Then we just start it. I don't understand why it wouldn't work then. But that's alright.
Start 2. Trying again.
We're only 5 minutes late again.
There it is.
There we go. See? Something
Bam.
happened.
Something happened. Yes, I want to add a title.
But it's too late. Oh, we're going to add a title. D-E-U-T-E-R. Deuter.
Look at YouTube for the description. Okay. And go live. Okay, that's doing that. There's that. Then I'm going to switch over to this. This is so slow. This is nothing like it used to be.
That's that new 5G.
It's
Yeah.
our world-class 5G.
It's
All right.
technologies from the watchers.
Well, no, listen, here's the funny thing about the technology from the watchers. Technically, that was like 6,000 to 10,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So their technology's old.
Right. That's true.
It's like
That's true.
they're giving us this old junk.
Yeah.
And we're there. And we're finally here.
Yeah. Hey, this is Uneducated. It's Friday, September 25th of 2020. And the world has not ended yet as of we know today, right?
Right. Now, the good news is YouTube people can comment.
Oh, yes. We went out
We
of
think
classic.
we fixed that.
We did. So YouTubers, you should be able to
There
comment.
we are. Look at our mugs.
Yeah, and also, listen, if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed, and also try and share these videos if you like the content that's on them. That helps us out. And then, is there anything else we need to do on there? But if you're on Facebook, like and share are really good things to do with our videos.
Right.
Because the more we like and the more we share, especially share, the more we see other people getting the content and they're able to see that. So,
Like Junior Asparagus used to say, sharing is the way to be.
this is true. Yeah. So, well, this is Uneducated, and as you know, you don't have to be educated to think rationally and logically about
Yeah, we need there. Our audio's back. I destroyed our camera.
All right.
Add input.
Well, let's see here. Our audio has. Yeah, it's probably bad.
No, our audio. I know our audio's back.
You do?
Yep. All right. Which was the right address? It was
Yeah.
the .15.
Huh? Yeah, first one. Yeah. Should be good.
Okay. Bring us back. Okay. And we're back a second time
Okay.
after. We have this figured out.
So you really
Morning, guys. No sound. I knew I couldn't do it that fast.
don't. Yeah. So listen, here's the thing. You don't have to be educated to look for truth. You just have to be sincere about finding it. But you do have to be educated to run this stuff. And obviously, we're having problems.
I know what needs done.
Right.
We're now down to bad internet.
That's what we'll call it. We'll call it bad internet.
When the internet worked, when our networking was working, it was great.
Yeah. But do you see how sometimes there's still a lag in that?
It's the streaming.
Yeah.
They're seeing everything like it should be. Okay, it's playing back slow and chugging through this computer, and every once in a while, when you see this thing like blink and come back,
Yeah.
the audio's gone. We just know that right away.
That's crazy. All right. Well, today, just a couple things real quick. We have a baptism coming up on October 4th. That's a Sunday. I believe we have now 12 people that are looking to be baptized, which is that's going to be a lot of fun on October 4th.
That's
Sunday.
a lot.
Yeah. And so we're going to do that, and we're going to have food afterwards. I've got some great people who have been willing to get together and put meal together, so we're going to do that afterwards. So if you are interested in being baptized, you need to get a hold of me quick, because we are going to be talking to everybody who's being baptized this week, and maybe into next week, a couple people if we can grab them, just so we're clear on what's being done and what's happening. But also, if you'd like to come and just be a part of that and encourage those people who are being baptized, we would appreciate that too. So it could be a full house on October 4th. The other thing is, don't forget, don't do life alone. Prayer group meets on Wednesday nights. If you're struggling with something, please let us know. Comment, send us an email. If you go on our website, there is a place where you can leave prayer requests, and we'll receive those prayer requests. So if you're struggling with something, don't do it alone. Get a hold of us and let us know so we can be praying with you and for you. And then the other thing is, too, the website is brand spanking new as of about 3 weeks ago. I updated and changed a ton of stuff on the website. So that's more functional. It takes people to next steps. It's more of a resource. And I think you'll find a lot of neat and interesting things on there now. So, all right.
I think something else that we need to get for our studio, which I saw on Pat Gray Unleashed, a cough button.
A cough button. That'd be good. So what does it do?
They hit a button and it silences your mic.
Okay.
So if you had Tourette's, hit the button. If you were coughing, hit the button.
Got you.
If you were like something you didn't want to cough button, it just silences the mic.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We could do that with the audio. We could turn the audio off.
Well, you want the show to keep rolling, though.
But you can just turn audio there.
I guess you could. We could put on a sound bit. We should have clips. We're gonna have to put together clips.
Okay. All right. We'll do that.
Maybe Joe Biden saying that 2/3 of the country is dead from coronavirus. I'm glad you're here, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to figure 2 out of 3 people are dead from coronavirus.
2 out of 3.
Yeah. He said 200 million people have died as of his speech on Tuesday.
Really?
Yes, really. He can't say enough dumb things.
That's interesting.
There aren't enough dumb things he can say.
Wow.
So, yeah, you really should be thankful that all the people that are in your life are still there.
Yeah.
Because 2 out of 3 are dead in Joe Biden's world.
Right. Well, we're glad that you're with us today, and we're going to get into the scriptures, and we are going to talk supernatural stuff. If any of you are familiar with Michael Heiser and a lot of the work that he's done, some of the different books that he's written, Unseen Realm, Supernatural, I Dare You to Bore Me with the Bible. So he's got several different books, and a lot of them have overlapping things in them. And I've noticed that's what authors do. They think up one new concept that came off of an old concept, and they write an entirely new book, and they put almost 85% of their old book in the new book with a couple of the new things in there, and they have a new book.
Okay, it's kind of like, and I'm more familiar with this, music.
All right.
You know that a band is truly amazing when they can make more than one album.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they're just one-hit wonders, and maybe a whole album is great, but when they go to their next album, you're like, well, that sounds like the first one. They're not very great.
Right.
So I just think that, like, you either you're here to bring a groundbreaking idea, which is where I would put this Michael Heiser fella. Mm-hmm. And then from there, you're just going to kind of splinter off that. Which, like, it's a pretty big idea that he's throwing out there.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like, there's not like, ooh, and I've put something else huge together.
Right.
It all seems to, like, so YouTubing him, you find a lot of Unseen Realm. Mm-hmm. Like that's his lecture.
That's his big one.
Yep.
Yeah. And then he splinters off of that. And Michael Heiser will say many times that he does not really have an original idea. None of this stuff is original to him. He likes to
he's citing people from like the late 70s that had some of these ideas.
Right.
Yeah, which I think is really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so good stuff. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. So we'll probably start with this idea of, we're going to talk about the counsel of God today. And what that means. What is the counsel of God? Does he have a counsel that sits before him and helps draw up ideas and thoughts about creation and the world and everything that we're in. And where would we get that idea if we were going to? So we'll start in the book of Genesis. We'll go back to the beginning. And we'll start by talking about if God were to have a council, it would probably be a council of spirit beings. And so when you get to Genesis chapter 1, it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So the first thing is that the word God there is a Hebrew term, which is Elohim. And the word Elohim, if you were to break it down and go throughout scriptures, and you'll find the word in different forms in different places, the word Elohim refers to a spirit being in the spirit realm.
Which this can be a topic of contention right out of the box.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
This whole thing, if you don't accept the premise that Elohim is just a spiritual being, everything that Michael Heiser talks about falls on its face.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yep.
So you got to go with him there.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of sense.
Right.
He justifies his thinking in that. Mm-hmm. And that, like, it's not going to, there's not a pile of Sanhedrin that are running around in the sky.
Right.
Which some people would say that it meant holy men,
right,
or things like that.
Yeah.
So
right.
There's one thing you got to grasp, and I guess I'm putting together finally, is that Elohim just means a spiritual being.
Right. However, in the Jewish text of the Old Testament, you find out very quickly that when the writer talks about God, you have to look at the context, but when he's talking about the God of heaven, he is speaking of the Elohim. So the word for Elohim can mean God or gods, plural. It really refers to any spirit being, but there is one spirit being who is the ultimate, and that is who the Hebrew writer is talking about when he says, in the beginning, God. So that is true. So for instance, I've made this comment before, and many people have. A lot of people always talk about how the United States was, formed on Christian foundations and principles, and that may be true. But on our money, it says, in God we trust. The question always is, though, what God? Which God? Mm-hmm. Because there's also, on the other side, there's the pyramid with the all-seeing eye.
Yep.
There's also the, there's another saying on there that is not necessarily...
out of many, one, or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. E pluribus unum.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that kind of thing on there. So you've got to always ask your question, context, what God or gods are we talking about? So in the scriptures, we're not denying the fact that when Moses, or whoever the author was of Genesis, if you have a different idea of that, but we believe that Moses probably wrote Genesis. But when he wrote this, and he writes about in the beginning God, he's talking about the God, the one and only, the true one of Israel. And the reason we know that is because of the context. But then later on, he begins to clarify that this is the Lord God. And that word there is a specific word, which some writers have. You have the Yod, the He, and the Vav, which are the Hebrew letters, and we don't have the vowels in there. So for a while there, everybody was calling him Yehovah or Jehovah.
Right.
Now they call him Yahweh, because they think that now maybe that's how you should pronounce it.
Right.
And who knows, in 40 years from now, someone else will come up with a different pronunciation, and they'll be the new guys.
Okay, so I don't know if that was a different Michael Heiser video, but he went through the whole thing that if you do the actual Greek, which would have been Jesus when Jesus existed, it's Jesus or what? It's
You're talking about Jesus' name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're saying like the God. Okay.
Yeah,
I see,
You're talking about Yeshua.
Right.
Right.
So anyway, I sped ahead.
I know what you're saying.
But they actually, the true interpretation would be Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Because people try to deny that when you claim Jesus' name, you're claiming a different God or a different deity.
So you're still talking about God the Father.
Yes. Yeah. God the Father. So then you come into, like, for instance, chapter 3 at the or chapter 2. Chapter 1, chapter 2 both talk about creation, but in chapter 1, verses 26 and 27, this is what it says. It says, "Then God said, 'Let us make man in our image.'" And for years, I was always taught, and many people were, because if you don't have an understanding of the entire text of the Elohim, and you don't look at all the different scripture texts of that, you don't start to figure that whole thing out, it would be very easy. People say, well, let us make man in our image. That's the Trinity, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit saying, let us make man in our image. And would you say that you've heard that most of your life, or you would agree, or most people would
Yeah.
say?
Right.
Okay. So Heiser's view is that when God says, "Let us make man in our image," he's speaking of a council of spirit beings.
Right.
And God is looking to them and saying, "Let us make man in our image." Now the YouTube, and now we're
Hold, please. Look how long it takes to make it go. Okay. Audio's back. So go ahead and I'll fix this camera.
audio was back when you said hold, please.
Oh, I wonder if it was picking it up off of that camera. All right. Go ahead.
Just in case.
All right.
All right. So anyway, when you look at that, you have to then ask yourself about the image, because if God is standing amongst a council of spirit beings, if God is standing amongst a council of spirit beings, and He decides to say, "Let us make man in our image," then the question would be, what image is He making them in?
Right.
So Matt, when you think of image, what do you think of? Like when we talked about this last Friday in our Bible study a little bit, but when you think about image, God created man in His image, what do you think of?
Well, I mean, in its most simplest terms, how we look, how we look, how we think, how we operate, like a brain and organs and.
Okay. All right. So let's take that to its logical end. Okay. When you read through the scriptures clearly tell us that God uses certain things to describe Himself, like the hand of God or the face of God. But the Bible clearly tells us that God is spirit.
Right.
So if God is spirit, then when He says, "I'm going to make you in my image," would it seem logical that He would then say, "Okay, I'm going to make you with hands and a brain and all these things"?
Well, I mean, yeah.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, yeah. He's also not bound by time. He's also omnipresent, which we can't be because we're physical. So we're limited by our bodies as to what we can. But when He says, "I create him in our image," I look at an image of, like, if you take a computer ISO, you aren't capturing the physical computer. You're capturing its ideas. You're capturing the stuff inside of it that makes it do its thing.
Right, because you can put all kinds of different looks on the outside.
You can have, like, I could take an ISO of this computer and put it in a tower or on a desktop. Right. Now, the essence of this computer is in the desktop. Right. But it's physically different.
Right.
Okay.
So that's key, because a lot of people think physical when they think of image, and that would be the word image.
But I mean, the idea of hands, like when He says hands and our face, and obviously I think God has a face.
Okay.
Right?
In the person of Jesus.
Okay. Yeah, I mean.
Well, I'm just trying to think, like, scripturally, because it says clearly that He's spirit.
Sure.
And it also says that no one can see Him. So
you're trying to say that He is a puff of smoke that exists, so He doesn't have hands. But I'm saying He's a puff of smoke that can use a hand if He needs to. Yeah,
I wouldn't refer to Him as a puff of smoke, but yeah, if you want to go there, you can. But I hear what you're saying.
Well, I guess you have. He's a nondescript cloud.
Yeah.
Okay.
He lives in unapproachable light, Paul told Timothy. So.
Sure.
Okay.
So, but still, if He wanted to manifest a hand, and move a planet across the solar system,
Right.
I don't see why he can't.
Right. So then if if people only think physical image, so for instance, you would have to go then if a baby's born without sight and without arms and legs, are they less of the image of God? And the question or the answer
No,
would
the
be
answer
no.
obviously no.
No. So this is one of Michael Heiser's arguments, and the idea is this, and I think he makes a good argument, and it's this, that the word there for image can be taken in its noun form, or it can be taken in its verb form. And the verb form would mean to image or to be an imager of. So that would be to take on all of the characteristics of God.
The essence.
Yes. So like you're saying, the guts of a computer, which that's a great analogy, the guts of the computer of how it works and what it's supposed to do and its power and its strength.
Well, it's a cloud. I mean, if you ask somebody to describe what's inside this computer, they couldn't any more than they could describe God.
Right.
Because it's in information theoretically that has to be accessed, read, and used.
Yes, right.
So that's why I say it's its essence, because when you turn it off, it's nothing, which would be different from God, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, so what the argument that you were making is basically his essence or his. It starts to make your brain go to fuzz when you're trying to describe what it is that he is, the image that he is conveying to us.
Right. Just like when Moses was on a mountain and he asked God to show him his glory, and God turned around and said, "Okay, I'm going to tell you what my name is. That I am slow to anger, I abound in loving kindness, I'm compassionate." So that's his glory. That's who he is. And when Jesus showed up, it said the person of Jesus was full of grace, full of God's glory. We beheld his glory, full of grace and truth. So his glory is full of grace and truth. So these are the kind of, like you said, the essence or the
Which
personhood
still doesn't
of God.
mean a lot. Doesn't mean a lot unless you have an elementary understanding of what that looks like in his as he conveys it to us. If you're not a believer, it's going to be very hard.
Sure.
Right. I mean, those are still just ideas.
Yes. Right.
Right.
So right in the beginning, then we have the idea of the writer using the word Elohim, which is talking about the spirit being in amongst all these other spirit beings, but the top of the echelon of the spirit beings, the only true
is the Elohim.
Being, is the Elohim, the God. And then in creation, he says, "Let us make man in our image." And if the image, the concept of image there is verb form, then that means that he could be talking to the other spirit realm. Because we don't know this, but many scholars believe that when the angels were created, they also were created to image God. And if you use that in a verb form, angels were created to do God's will, to be as he is, to be compassionate and kind and do these things that God's called them to be. So it's very possible that angels, spirit beings were created to image him as well. So it's possible that God is speaking to this group of people. And you say, well, where do you get God speaking to a group of people, spirit beings? And that takes us then to places like Psalm 82
and Psalm 89.
All right, so I will go there and I'll read. Do you have anything you want to add to that as we're throwing through that? Do you have any ideas or thoughts as we're walking through that?
No, just that you have to, I think you've laid out a good basic definition of the things that, as Heiser would define them, so that when you read this, and really, when you read Psalm 82, there's no other way, even if you have other views of Elohim, it makes Psalm 82 really weird.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Okay. So
not to mention, as we go through Psalm 82, you'll see the context. There's no way. There's a very important part there that you can't miss.
This really kneecaps the idea that this kind of has to be the way.
Right. Okay, so it says in Psalm 82, God takes his stand in his own congregation. Now, that's the New American Standard Version. I wish...
ESV. He seems to use a lot of ESV.
Do you have ESV or even New King James or King James will probably give us a better translation of that. It says, he judges in the midst of the rulers. So this is just verse 1. Now look at how New American Standard has changed the ideas of this just a little bit. But if you go back to the original Hebrew, this idea of rulers should be translated a little different. And I might be able just to pull that up real quick myself. as Matt's doing that. So if you don't have your Bible open, you can open it to Psalm.
All right, so we're on ESV.
Yeah, Psalm 82.
Getting there.
What's your translation say there for that? Oops.
God has taken his place in the divine council.
Okay.
So right there, it becomes an Avengers movie.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. ESV.
In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment.
Okay. Now the reason that should be translated gods instead of rulers is because rulers makes you think that these are probably human type of religious elders or something of that nature.
The people of countries.
Right.
Right.
So that can't be true, obviously, if the right interpretation is made there. So then if you go further, how long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked?
Yeah, and I think my dad's a King James only guy, I think.
Okay, what's his
God standeth in the congregation of the mighty, he judgeth among the gods. So even the King James talks about among the gods.
Right. Okay. So let me do this. I should have had this pulled up, but all of a sudden I'm having...
Where do you want me to go now?
Just like anything else.
Do you want me to keep reading?
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's keep reading the ESV. Read verse 2 in the ESV.
How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? Give justice to the weak and the fatherless. Maintain the right of the afflicted and the destitute. Rescue the weak and the needy. Deliver them from the hand of the wicked. They have neither knowledge nor understanding. They walk about in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are shaken. I said, you are gods, sons of the Most High, all of you. Nevertheless, like men, you shall die and fall like any prince. Arise, O God, judgeth the earth, and for you shall inherit all the nations.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like he is not talking to people here.
No, definitely not.
No.
Definitely not. And the translation is interesting because of the way it goes about, that he's talking to gods. And he's talking about gods who have messed up. So,
right.
Listen.
You are, how long are you going to keep being stupid?
Yeah.
You're going to die.
Right. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, he's not talking about himself.
Correct.
You don't stand in the midst of yourself.
Judging yourself.
And judge yourself.
And yell at yourself.
And especially since you're a perfect being.
Right.
And then telling yourself that you messed up.
Right.
And then you're going to die.
Yeah, no, this becomes problematic.
Right. Now, the other thing is, verse 7, why would you tell men that they're going to die like men?
Right.
Verse 7, nevertheless you will die like men and fall like any one of the princes.
Right.
So when you read the scriptures, and this is something that I've done over the years, but it takes so long to do it, and that's one of the things I like about Michael Heiser is that he's a brainiac nerd guy that just loves to and is able to. He has that propensity to do this, but he reads article after article of people that have studied these different things, and he is able to then catch
He's
things.
kind of putting together thoughts of what I've noticed of people who have done the heavy lifting.
Right. Right.
He's mushing it all together.
Yeah, and he's making some sense out of it.
Right,
yeah.
yes.
And these are things where if you come, and I've done this, I always try to come to the text with a fresh new set of eyes every time and say, God, what do you want me to learn? What do you want me to understand here? And when you do that, you learn things, but it takes a lifetime, and you still don't get it all.
Right.
So the great thing is when you got somebody like a Heiser who's just he has this propensity to learn and to study, and he's reading all these articles, and he's starting to see things that he wouldn't have seen for 20 years, but he's seeing them because someone else saw them, and then he starts going, oh, yeah, this makes sense. Now, all of a sudden, he puts it together in a book, and you're able to read it and go, oh, that makes sense now.
Right.
So you've got God in the council of the gods, the Elohim, the spirit beings, and he's bringing judgment on them, and they're going to die like men. And then he says in verse 8, arise, O God, judge the earth, for it is you who possesses all the nations. And so obviously God is going to arise and make judgment on this.
Because I'm guessing that's David wrapping up this psalm.
Yeah.
right?
Because the Psalm's only, what, 8 verses there?
Right.
Yeah.
But okay, so I'm just saying, arise, O God, judge the earth, for you shall inherit all the nations. That would be a man saying that.
Right.
That would be David finishing up this writing.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah. Unless, yeah. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Because he wrote these.
Right.
Okay?
Right. Yeah, it's believed. I mean, he didn't write all the Psalms, but yeah, it's believed that he wrote them. But this one here specifically, if you look at the title, it's a Psalm of Asaph.
Oh. I don't know who Asaph is.
I can't tell you right off the hand right now either, but I'll figure it out for you. And the Psalm before that's a Psalm of Asaph. So, and maybe someone else out there will tell you. And I would have looked it up real quick, but all of a sudden, my phone here on this
It's our internet.
this Wi-Fi is horrible.
No, our Wi-Fi stinks.
Like I literally cannot.
It has
get
not
anything
been
to
the
load.
same for 2 months now.
And I'm on the 5G.
I think it got coronavirus.
It probably did.
Our Wi-Fi should have been wearing a mask.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm going to go on the 2G just to see if it's any better.
It's not going to be.
No?
No, I
The
promise.
5G is terrible. Well, anyway, so we'll go from there. So we go from Psalm 82. So we went from creation, and we got these Elohims, and then we got Psalm 82. Now look at Psalm 89, right? Are you familiar with Psalm 89?
I know that it's a thing. I did not invest as much time in it. Would you like me to read it?
Well, it's a huge psalm,
Okay,
so
never
we're
mind.
just gonna
Take parts of it.
yeah. So, let's see. It is Psalm 89, right?
Yeah. Oh, that is a big one.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find out because I don't have it in this Bible. Usually I have a couple different Bibles floating around, and that's where I...
Wasn't it around 18?
Oh, it might have been. Well, we're not going to go there. How about we go to Psalm 32, and then I'll figure that out in a second. Let's go to Psalm 32, Deuteronomy 32. At least I know that part. So Deuteronomy 32 says this. This is the Song of Moses. And I want to read a big chunk of Psalm 82, and then we'll just kind of talk about this. Deuteronomy 32 says, "Give ear, O heavens, and let me speak, and let the earth hear the words of my mouth. Let my teaching drop as the rain, my speech distill as the dew, as the droplets of the fresh grass, and as the showers of the herb. For I proclaim the name of the Lord. Ascribe greatness to our God, the rock. His work is perfect. For all his ways are just, a God of faithfulness and without injustice. Righteous and upright is he." So this is a description of who God is.
Yep.
Verse 5. "They have acted corruptly toward him, and they are not his children because of their defect." Now, isn't that just an interesting... anybody that reads that has to stop and pause and go, what does that mean?
They have dealt corruptly with him. They are no longer his children because they are blemished.
Okay. All right. Now, of course, some people just write that off and say, okay, that's...
Yeah. They're bad.
Yeah, they're bad or sinful or whatever. But are a perverse and crooked generation. Do you thus repay the Lord, O foolish and unwise people? Is not he your father who has bought you? He has made you and established you. Remember the days of old. Consider the years of all generations. Ask your father, and he will inform you. Your elders, and they will tell you. Verse 8. When the Most High gave the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of man, he set the boundaries of the peoples according to the number of the sons of... What's yours say?
According to the number of the sons of God.
Okay.
Big G.
Now again, New American Standard has tried to make this nicer. Mine translates it sons of Israel. The problem is that Israel was not a nation at this point of the writing. We don't have Israel as a people group yet. So that's kind of problematic. According to the number of the sons of God, for the Lord's portion is his people Jacob, and his allotment of his inheritance. It's the allotment of his inheritance. So if you think about that for a minute, now you go back to what we talked about Sunday, and that's the Tower of Babel.
Right.
And the Tower of Babel is when God scattered the people, and when he scattered them, he put these people, this is his inheritance, is Abraham, or his inheritance is his people. But when he scattered them, he put lesser gods or lesser Elohim
over the nations.
Over the nations.
Right.
And that's who's ruling those nations now.
Right.
But God's portion is Israel.
Right.
God's portion is his people,
Okay.
Jacob. And so we know that God has always longed to rule Israel and Jacob, but they have always been stiff-necked and turned their back, but he has never stopped his covenant. Matter of fact, one of the reasons why the Gentiles, Paul tells us in Romans chapter 10 and 11, the reason you and I as Gentiles are in on this is because God allowed us to be saved. He sought us when we weren't seeking him so that he could make the Jews jealous so that they would come back. Isn't that an interesting thought?
That's kind of fun.
I mean, God always had it in us. Because
God gets to be a jealous teenage girl. Yeah. We don't get to be. He is.
Well, no, he's going to make the Jews jealous. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But the reason he had to do that is because the Jews were supposed to be, the reason he called Abram out of Haran is because Abram was to be a blessing to every single nation on the earth. He was to bless them through Christ. Every other single nation was supposed to hear this message, and they had the opportunity to be saved through the blood of Christ. But Jewish people would not do that. So God said, well, then I'm going to go do that through Christ.
Right.
And you'll get jealous over that because I'm going to call these Gentiles to myself.
Right.
That's how it was supposed to be from the beginning. But I'm going to do that.
Right.
And so out of that whole thing, you get this story of this divine council of beings that God interacts with as he's doing things on the earth.
So if God had not have done that, we would have some lesser God over our people group.
If God would not have
tried to make the nation of Israel jealous.
That's possible. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, technically, we do probably, as a nation, we do have them over us, but we are now in the kingdom of God because of our faith.
Right.
So we're living in a nation that has lesser Elohim governing it, but we are a part of the kingdom.
Do you think George Soros is an Elohim?
He might be. I'm not sure, but he might be. You can ask Michael Heiser and see if he has any thoughts on that.
Should we see if we can get Michael Heiser to break political?
Yeah, we could see. You'd be lucky if you get Michael Heiser to even come on this show. I'm pretty sure he's got bigger fish to fry.
I have a feeling he would come on this show because I've seen some of the shows he's been on.
Oh, really?
They're tiny.
Yeah, but no. Have you noticed those shows, though? They have like thousands and thousands of subscribers. Yeah, just check it out.
Well, you know why? Because we got to the game way too late.
You think that's why?
Yeah. We jumped on the caboose of this long train and we're like trying to get to the front.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, so hold on real quick. My dad just said Israel equals God prevails. The second name for Jacob given to him by God after his wrestling with the angel at the Peniel, the name of the descendants and.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So
Jacob is now Israel.
Right.
God's people. So is your dad saying that then as Israel was a people, like they were a nation, so that could be translated sons of Israel then?
Well, listen. Okay, so here's where I'm at on all this Michael Heiser stuff. He's going against probably hundreds of years of logic.
Yes,
okay.
he is.
People have thought about this, so there's it's not just going to be like all of a sudden like, oh yeah, no, I see what you're saying. There's going to be like, no, you're doing this wrong, right. Michael Heiser.
Right.
You're going to have some of that.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what my dad's trying to say here. Yeah. I think he's trying to describe that.
Well, it would be, but listen, here's the thing you're talking about. Moses is talking about a time when Israel had not existed yet. Abraham hadn't been called yet. And this wrestling with God where Jacob was called Israel hadn't happened yet. If Moses
we're in Deuteronomy.
In Deuteronomy 32, if he's talking about, in verse 8, if he's talking about the Tower of Babel, then Jacob being called Israel has not happened yet. Does that make sense now?
If he's addressing the Tower of Babel in these verses.
Right. In verse 8, when the Most High gave the nations their inheritance, which Heiser's saying this is going back.
That happened at the Tower of Babel.
This is going back to the Tower of Babel. When he separated the sons of man and he set the boundaries of the peoples, according to the number of the sons of God. So it wouldn't be
right. That's when he confounded the languages and put the Elohim over the different nations that
Right.
were scattered about.
Right. So if that's true, then even if he set the boundaries according to the number of the sons of Israel, that still wouldn't be, because when God scattered them, he didn't scatter them according to the names of the 12 tribes. The 12 tribes didn't come till after. If this is what is being addressed here in
Right.
verse 8. So that might answer or speak to what your dad is talking about there as well. For
Wait,
the Lord's
got more coming in. The name of the descendants of Jacob, the name of the nation until the death of Solomon, and the split, the name used and given to the northern kingdom consisting of the 10 tribes under.
No, he's right. That's right. But again, if you take this back to the Tower of Babel, the nation did not exist. Those 12 tribes did not exist yet at the Tower of Babel.
Right.
So that's the point of this.
Okay. So that didn't come from the flood
No.
and Noah's sons.
You're saying the nations.
Yeah.
Not yet, no. They would eventually. They would
Okay.
come through the line of Noah.
Okay.
But there was no discussion or talk of them being the sons of Israel or the people of Israel if you take this back to the Tower of Babel.
Okay. Jeroboam, the southern kingdom, was known as Judah, the name of the nation after the return from exile.
Right. Yeah, that was the
This
southern.
is all history after.
Right. Southern and northern kingdom, yeah.
So let's see if we can cut to the chase here. We're looking at Deuteronomy as addressing Deuteronomy 32 as addressing
Verse 8.
verse 8 as addressing Babylon,
Right.
and all the history that my father is sharing right now is post Babylon.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So you have to have the premise that Moses is addressing Babylon here.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. So just with these couple scripture texts, you start to see that it is possible that there is a council that stands before God taking judgment. Now, if you say, well, wait a minute, you're just going off that. Let's go to the book of Job, and these are really fun places to go. But Job chapter 1, and we'll look at verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of God... Now this is interesting because they don't have a problem doing this here. They don't have a problem of translating it, sons of God, here. But in other verses, they want to translate it differently. And I think, like Michael Heiser says this too, and I would agree because I've said this for years, you can't do that. You can't play games with interpreting the Bible. You can't say, I'm going to interpret it this way here, and I'm going to interpret different here.
Right.
You've got to have a consistent hermeneutics when you study the Bible. So if it's sons of God here, then there's no reason why it shouldn't be, especially if the word is sons of God, if the word is El or Elohim.
Right.
There's no reason why you would change it to Israel. You would just leave it sons of God, and then you have to let the context speak on that.
Right.
So here, now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. And the Lord said to Satan, "From where do you come?" And then Satan answered the Lord and said, "From roaming about on the earth and walking around on it." So, obviously we have a situation in the upper realms of heaven where God is enthroned and he's seated somewhere in this spirit realm, that God has days or time periods when the spirit realm comes to him and they present themselves to him. Almost like an accountability situation.
Yeah.
So here's what we've been doing. This is what's going on. Or
It's a board meeting.
it is.
No, listen.
You're exactly
There's
right.
nothing new under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
They organize themselves,
Right.
and it's a board meeting.
Right.
All right. So what are we doing in the mailing department? What are we doing in production? I need numbers.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So with this, you can see that obviously God is there in counsel with them, and he's talking with them. And it's interesting because God asks the question, so Satan, you've been taking a look at Job, right? And that's really, in the Hebrew, from the studies I've done in the past, it's not like God comes up and says, hey, Satan, you should check out Job. I think he'd be a good one for you to get. No, God is already looking and going, so Satan, you've been looking at Job.
I still feel like Job would have been like, hey, leave me out of this. Hey, no, as much as I appreciate what you're trying to do for me.
No, I agree.
Stay out of this.
Right. So this is another text that just kind of lets us know that something's going on in the spirit realm, and it's bigger than what we know or understand.
Right.
And so now Satan is going to be brought down, and he's going to come back to the earth. He was roaming on the earth, and he's going to be sent back down to deal with Job, and he's given some allowances with Job. And we know this happens again in chapter 6, where they come before God again, and he asks for more, and God gives them more. So this happens. They come before God in this council setting, and God is in discussion with these spirit beings, and he allows or does not allow them to do certain things.
Yep.
So if we would just take that with Job, then how much further of a leap would it be for God to say, hey, I'm going to take these spirit beings, these lower, lesser gods, and I'm going to let them rule over the nations because they don't want me to be God. They want to worship their own gods, so I'm going to do that. It's not that far of a leap.
No.
It's really not. I know it seems crazy to some people, but it's really not that far of a leap. So, any other thoughts on that? Are we getting any other comments? I haven't checked Facebook, but I don't see any comments on Facebook. So
no. I think people are just listening, and I do think that our internet is chugging a little bit now.
Yeah, I see that. So we may have to call again. All right. So I just want to take you to one other place. Are you ready?
Yeah.
This is First Kings chapter 22, and the idea is that Jehoshaphat, who is the king of Judah, comes to the king of Israel, and
where are we at? Where's this reference?
So this is 1 Kings chapter 22.
Okay, 1 Kings chapter 22.
And they're getting ready. Jehoshaphat wants to know, will you go with me to battle at Ramoth Gilead? That's in verse 4. And Jehoshaphat said to the king of Israel, well, I'm as you are, my people as your people, my horses and your horses. But Jehoshaphat said to the king, would you inquire first of the word of the Lord? Let's make sure that this is God's thing, because I don't want to go up there and get us, lambasted and get our heads knocked in.
I mean, this really, and you had mentioned this on Sunday too, that like David and the army, they were killing. Who were they fighting against?
Right.
When you ask, who were they fighting against? They were fighting against all of these ites that you read about, and that again. While we're reading our Bible, they go, Dan, they're killing so-and-so and who and whatnot.
Right.
But when you really go, okay, let's look at who that so-and-so and who and whatnot is, it's these...
Some of them are the Nephilim, yes.
The giants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the
yes.
clans.
Yeah. They're ridding the world. So God had the flood. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, they figured out how to do this again.
Right.
After the flood.
Mm-hmm.
And so now God is using man and men in these armies to go and kill them.
Right.
Cleanse the earth.
Yep.
Which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is pretty awesome. So if you walk through here, Jehoshaphat says, hey, Ahab, let's figure out whether God wants us to do this or not. And so Ahab says, let's see, verse 6. Then the king of Israel gathered the prophets together, about 400 of them, and they said, yeah, you should go up. It's good. But in verse 7, Jehoshaphat says, you know what? Isn't there a prophet of the Lord around here that we can talk to? Because these 400 guys, they're not prophets of the Lord, so we got to find one. And Ahab says, well, yeah, there's one guy, but he never tells me what I like to hear.
Right.
So he says, and I'll call, but Jehoshaphat says, well, I think we should talk to him. I think we should call him up. So they call him up, and let's see. So verse 9, the king of Israel called an officer and said, bring quickly Micaiah, son of Imlah. And now the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, were sitting each at his throne, arrayed in their robes at the threshing floor entrance of Samaria, and all the prophets were prophesying before them. Then Zedekiah, the son of Kenanah, made horns on the altar, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be disrespectful there with the word, but we're just going to move through here. And so then you come to verse 13. Then the messenger who went to summon Micaiah said, or spoke to him, saying, behold, now the words of the prophets are unformally uniformly favorable to the king. Please let your word be like the word of one of them, and speak favorably. But Micaiah said, as the Lord lives, what the Lord says to me, I shall speak. So Micaiah says, shall we go to, so he asks, shall we go to Ramoth Gilead to battle, or should we refrain? And Micaiah says, yeah, you should go. And Micaiah says, the king of Israel says, verse 18, then the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, did I not tell you that he would not prophesy good concerning me, but evil? So he knows that Micaiah is telling him, oh, you should go, but he knows that really the bottom line is you shouldn't go. So then this is what Micaiah says in verse 19. Therefore hear the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting on his throne, and all the hosts of heaven standing by him, one his right and on his left. And the Lord said, who will entice? So here's the whole council of the heavenly hosts, the spirit beings standing before the Lord. And the Lord asks a question. The spirit came, so the Lord asked the question, who will entice Ahab to go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? And one said this while another said that. So God literally asks a question, and the spirit beings are going, oh, I think this is what should happen. Oh, I think this is what should happen.
It's a board meeting.
Seriously, has anybody read this stuff before?
Right.
So then it says...
Who do you think is talking here?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then verse 21, then a spirit came forward and stood before the Lord and said, I will entice him. And the Lord said to him, how? And he said, I'll go out and be a deceiving spirit in the mouth of all of his prophets.
That's not a person.
No.
That is not a person.
It's not a person.
Right.
It's not a person. Then he said, and this would be God, you are to entice him and also prevail. Go and do so. Now therefore, behold, the Lord has put a deceiving spirit in the mouths of all of these your prophets, and the Lord has proclaimed disaster against you. Now here's the great thing about this. People go, well, wait a minute. That means God's evil. He's using lying spirits. He's going to do all this. Now, how do we know that the spirit that spoke was not a spirit of fallen nature, number one? So then God says, okay, that's fine. But I have my spirit that speaks, and my spirit will speak through a person by the name of Micaiah. And Micaiah just informed Ahab that there's a lying spirit in the prophets that said you should go up to Ramoth Gilead. And Ahab still goes up.
Right.
There was nothing
because
bad.
It's what he wanted to do.
Exactly. There was nothing bad about God in this situation.
No.
God did nothing wrong in this situation.
The king wanted what he wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is human nature.
Yeah. But yet, okay, so all that said, I just didn't want anybody to go off and think that God was using, well, he did. He used lying spirit, but he allowed it to happen. But I didn't want anybody to think God's a lying spirit and blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is God has a council of spirit beings that he uses.
That proves that. But I guess this also proves that we do have free will.
Yes.
Okay? Mm-hmm. And basically what God's saying there is like, I've given you an answer from my guy.
Yeah.
But you desperately want your answer. And so I was like at the board meeting, all right, who wants to go make this so? So it proves, though, nothing happens without God's ordination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So this is what this guy wants so badly. I need somebody to go do it. Mm-hmm. And so, gnashing of teeth, I'll go. Mm-hmm. Boom. There you go. You got your way.
Right. So we see
which goes to the king of your nation. Like the people get the king of their nation that they deserve, and like this, all of these things start to come together. And I find it interesting that Andy Stanley thinks that the Old Testament is worthless.
I don't know where he's getting that from.
No, it's crazy.
I don't know. His dad just stepped down too last week. Did you see that?
I did.
He said, I'm now 86, and I think it's time for me to step down. And he has preached the gospel for so long, and he's done a great job, faithful job of that. But, I just watched the video of him, and it's like, dude, I don't know. You've been doing a good job, but maybe you should have stepped down a while back.
A little while ago.
But no, I feel the same way. As long as God gives me breath to breathe, and as long as people listen to the gospel
you're going to be doing it.
I'll preach it.
Yep. And especially if your son's going to come on and say half the Bible is worthless.
Yeah. And if my sons do that, I don't care if I'm 86 or not, I'm slapping some people in the head. I'll be talking to my son about that if he starts talking that stuff.
It's awesome.
All right. So that's just a kind of a brief interview. There's a lot of depth and a lot of complexities to all of these things. And And you can probably grab some Michael Heiser's stuff. You can look him up and find some of that. And I think what I'd like
or
to do,
just
read the Bible.
read this stuff, and it's hard to read this stuff and do just what you did, blah blah blah, because you're like, okay, I want to get to the good part,
Yeah.
right? But you passing over when what this is used to happen when I was a kid. The Canaanites, the Amorites, the Uzzites, and all the ites.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Well, so you're just glossing over.
Right.
If you said, all right, instead of when you're glossing over something, you're going, I really don't know what that's for, but I'm going to assume that it's superfluous. And for all intents and purposes, it kind of is, right? Because listen, if you're just there for a nuts and bolts,
Oh yeah.
gather the wisdom from Jacob and Moses and that you're going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of glossing over all of those things, if you said, all right, who were those people again?
Right.
And earnestly go, who were those people again? That's where this leads.
Yeah.
When you read these passages, when you read Psalm 82, when it looks like God is talking to a board meeting, really let that sink in. Like, who is he really talking to? The guy, he didn't come down to earth and he's sitting around with the Israel smart people.
Right.
He's talking to his council.
Right. And it doesn't change the fact, like some people might start to go here, but it doesn't change the fact that God, before he created the angels, before he created mankind, somewhere back in the eons of eternity, that he was okay with just himself, that he doesn't need anything else to sustain him. It's not like he needs the angels to sustain him. It's not like he needs human beings. But something in the person of God wanted to create a family of people or a group of people that he could call his own, that he could be in relationship with as well, and that he could bless, and that he could, do things for and serve, because that's who he is.
Well, and he created us for the sole. I've heard this taught and I've always believed it. He created us for the sole purpose to love him out of free will.
Yeah, sure, I believe that.
He created us just to go, we love you, you're amazing, out of our own intuition. Right? And that's he, like you hear, like it's written, he can command 1,000 angels to bow before him.
Yeah.
But us, we have to choose him.
Right.
And it's like when your kids, if you're a scallywag, and your kids hide when you come in a room.
Is that what a scallywag is?
I mean, I could use a lot of horrible words, but I try to keep it clean for the kids out there. And your kids are afraid of you, and when they leave, they say goodbye and they never talk to you again.
Right.
How are you going to feel when you're on your deathbed versus when you come home every day and your kids wrap themselves around your legs because they love you and they're so glad you're home?
Right.
That's what God. I mean, seriously. The God who was like, fine, I'm going to make the Gentiles part of this so that you're jealous, Israel. Like, that's how bad he needs that. I find that interesting about the character of God.
Yeah.
He just and when you think about it, when you are all-powerful, infinite, you can make anything happen that there ever was. The thing that you're going to seek is something that loves you out of its own desire to love you. I can make anything love me.
Right.
But this creature, this being, humans, they either can go to hell with Satan or they can come give me love because they desire to. And that's what he seeks out of us.
And it appears that he gave the angels the same, or the spirit beings, angels, the same opportunity.
Yeah, obviously.
Obviously, they had a will, a free will of some sort.
Right.
I don't know that they have a free will.
Maybe they were iteration. Maybe the angels were like iteration, 1.8, and humans were like iteration 3.1.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, I'm gonna make them. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna make them so helpless. I'm not giving them wings.
Yeah, right.
They can't fly.
Yeah.
They can't go to the ends. Like, they're going to be bound to a planet. And they're going to be so feeble that if they fall off the side of a rock, they'll die.
Yeah.
I mean, like thanks God.
Yeah. Because that way, maybe
if they're in a boat, if they're in a boat in the middle of salt water,
Yeah.
they won't be able to drink it, and they'll die in 3 days. In 3 days, they'll be dead.
Right.
That's what I'm doing this time.
Yeah. Although if you've ever watched the I Shouldn't Be Alive, have you ever watched those?
I've seen some of them.
People have lived for a long time
They
out
have.
in the ocean.
It becomes how long do you want to live and how long God will let you live, right?
Right.
But I mean, if you think about, so God obviously made the angels and the council of angels, and the angels fell, and all these things.
Right.
So and then it was just like, all right, I'm gonna try this now.
Yeah, it's possible that's where he was at. He was like, and it's interesting you say that because he did create us to have to depend on him.
We're totally,
no-
we are helpless.
No other way.
We are completely helpless to do anything.
Yeah. We got any more good comments there that you want to share? Or bad comments, doesn't matter. You can share good or bad.
Maverick Wheels. My daddy said, sorry, I see this was not there. Only have 200 charts. Yasher, Israel, Aramaic, the King James Old Testament, Hebrew Lexicon, Strong's number. It must have been a cross-reference he was looking up.
Okay.
I don't know. I love my dad to death, but
Uh-oh, Dad.
here it comes.
Turn the audio off.
Here it comes. No, when he's typing, he's like this.
Oh, so it's going to take a while?
Yeah, and so I know that my dad is trying to put like a super complex thought into like 3 sentences.
Gotcha.
Like my dad really would be perfect for texting.
Uh-huh.
He's made for texting.
Okay. All right. Why don't we'll bring your dad on.
Seven paragraphs. I got it done in 5 words.
We should bring your dad on a video call sometime.
We should. We could interview Pops.
We'll do that. We haven't done that in a while.
We need to make it work.
I'd love to bring Manly back on and talk to him about some of this stuff.
He needs internet that works. I'm afraid where my dad's at, the internet might not. It would chug.
Yeah.
I have a feeling
we don't want to give the disclosed location of where your dad's at right now anyway.
Right. Well, I think it's very similar to Manly's where, they have just enough internet to stream a Netflix movie and send email. Right.
So, but I think I'm going to have a conversation with Manly about this and see if he wants to come on.
Well, he should do it from his church. I guarantee you he's got good internet there.
Oh, he's got to, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen where the church is at. It's towny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, maybe we'll do that. So I think it's about that time to break forth the rhythm and the rhyme.
Yep. Thanks for hanging in there, everybody. Nothing on our Facebook audience really has
Depleted.
kind of diminished.
Yeah. Well, then that could be a sign that we either need better content or
I'm afraid that we ran them away with all of our political ramblings that we
didn't do anything political today.
No, we've stayed away from political for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, prior to
Maybe
this.
they want political. Is that what you're saying?
I think all of I think our no mask talk and which I mean in the end we're going to be right.
Well, I told you though that I found out today at the coffee shop that they lifted one of the bans, so now they can have their pumpers out and you can get your own coffee.
Yeah, we're gonna have coffee at church on Sunday.
Yeah,
which is good. I won't have to bring my giant tankard.
Yeah, since I found that out, that'd be great.
No, that's wonderful news.
Once they lift the ban.
Well, that's what I was telling you earlier in Rutherford County, Tennessee, which is where Murfreesboro is. They are lifting all of their stuff, so no masks. Like they're like, let's turn life back to normal.
And that's in Tennessee.
Tennessee, yeah. About 25 minutes southeast of Nashville.
Oh wow.
I will tell you that I'm on the 5G. Okay, we're back in sound.
All right.
I am on the 5G. I did go and check, and so I guess I could try and connect to the any community directly and see if that talks better, and doesn't give us a problem. Like the extender is choking.
Yeah, we have time.
No, I know. We have this figured out now. This is a done deal.
All
Even
right.
though people go, we don't have sound. No, we
What's wrong
know.
with these people?
All of a sudden, I have no sound. Boo. Connie Sullivan. We should be back, Connie. I'm glad you were watching. Thank you for being here today. All right, let's go over here. And my dad says sound again. Okay. All right, everybody. We're out for this week, right?
We're out for this week.
Have a great week. You want to do if you don't have a church?
Yeah, if you don't have a church, we are here. Services are live and in person, also on Facebook and YouTube, 11 o'clock. So if you don't have a local church or you just want to come out and worship with us, that's fine.
But you better come because we got a lot of different people coming.
We do.
Yeah.
We do have. I mean, if the people who have not come back since the whole COVID thing start coming back, it's going to have to be.
We're going to fill up.
Yeah, we're going to fill up quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want to get in here on the inside track, better get here now.
Right, tiny mega church.
Because when our old people come back, we're just going to start turning people away.
We're going to have to. Yeah. Well, we could do an overflow room back there.
We could. The overflow room might be cool because I bet it has coffee and donuts.
It's definitely going to have coffee. I don't know about donuts, but
Okay.
coffee at least.
We're not bringing donuts back.
I would rather not.
Okay.
I don't think people need the sugary pastries in their lives.
All right, everybody. You have a great week.